For most rookies, $2 million is a dream. For Shedeur Sanders, it was a starting bid, one he promptly turned down. Instead, he secured a $100 million deal with Nike, anchored not in blind faith, but in a clear understanding of market value. His brand power, amplified by his father Deion Sanders' legacy and his own rising media presence. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. It made him more than just a top quarterback prospect. It made him a walking marketing machine. In doing so, Sanders shattered the myth that financial stability in sports only comes after proving yourself on the field. He proved it can come before the first snap. This wasn't just about the money. It was about rewriting the athlete-business relationship. Sanders' approach mirrors that of a startup-founder more than a traditional athlete, using tools like equity clauses and creative control to carve out long-term leverage. His rejection of a lowball NFL offer sends a clear message. The athlete economy is no longer built on scarcity, but on brand clarity and ownership. The league now faces an uncomfortable truth. Players don't need the shield as much as the shield needs them. $2 million. That's what the NFL reportedly offered Shedeur Sanders. And he called it pocket change. Not behind closed doors. Not whispered through a PR rep. Out loud. Publicly. Then he turned around and signed a $100 million deal with Nike before ever stepping on an NFL field. This isn't just a bold move. It's a direct challenge to the entire structure of professional sports economics. And the NFL, they're panicking because this isn't just about money. It's about control. For decades, the league has set the rules. Rookies enter wide-eyed, grateful, and underpaid. They accept modest contracts in exchange for opportunity. They follow the process, defer to the system, and hope the endorsements come later, after proving their worth, on someone else's terms. Shedeur didn't buy into that. He walked in already knowing his value. And that's why this moment is so disruptive. He leveraged his personal brand, built on cultural relevance, marketability, and digital clout, to negotiate not just a massive endorsement, but a new kind of relationship between athletes and corporations. Nike didn't sign a player. They partnered with a brand, a business, a young athlete who already functions like a CEO. This deal is groundbreaking in its scale, but what really changes the game is its structure. Reports highlight that Shedeur's previous deal with Gatorade included equity clauses. That detail, tucked into the headlines, speaks volumes, because equity means ownership. It means profit tied to performance, sales, longevity, not just flat fees. That kind of clause is rare for someone his age, but it shows foresight. It shows he's not just playing for endorsements. He's playing for long-term wealth, for sustainability, for the kind of financial power that doesn't just elevate his platform, but builds one. So when Nike came to the table, it wasn't going to be a standard endorsement. Not after Gatorade. Not with what Shedeur had already proven. Nike knew what they were doing. They saw someone with the reach, the voice, and the vision to co-create, not just co-sign. And when that contract hit headlines, it sent shockwaves through the NFL. Because here's the quiet part everyone in those boardrooms knows but doesn't say out loud. The league has always relied on a one-way power dynamic. They set the market. They control the exposure. They determine who gets paid and when. But Shedeur flipped that. By securing a historic deal outside of the league's control, he exposed the system for what it is, an old model struggling to adapt to a new reality. The NFL needs talent. But now, more than ever, talent doesn't need the NFL the same way it used to. And that's where the panic comes in. Because this wasn't just a rookie making headlines. It was a blueprint, a signal to every college athlete watching. There's another way. There's a way to build your brand early, control your narrative, and negotiate from a position of power before you ever sign your first pro contract. The NFL is scrambling because this is a domino effect waiting to happen, one that could fundamentally shift how young athletes approach the draft, endorsements, and their entire professional trajectory. It's not hard to see the shift. Social media has changed everything. Influence now travels directly. A viral post from Shedeur reaches millions faster than any traditional ad campaign. Brands understand this. They're no longer just sponsoring athletes. They're collaborating with them. And that shift has left the NFL exposed. Because for decades, the league functioned as a gatekeeper. It offered visibility in exchange for compliance. But now, athletes bring their own visibility, their own audience, their own brand value. When Shedeur rejected that contract, he didn't just say no to $2 million. He said yes to autonomy, to legacy, to the idea that you don't have to climb someone else's ladder if you're already building your own. And let's be honest, not everyone's happy about it. The media reaction? Polarizing. Some praise him for changing the game. Others called him arrogant, disconnected, too confident for someone who hasn't proven anything yet. But that criticism follows a pattern, one that's been leveled at confident black athletes for generations. The same pushback Cam Newton got when he dared to celebrate on the field. The same backlash LeBron faced for taking control of his career. The same condescension Deion Sanders heard when he first said, "I know my worth." It's not about football. It's about agency. And when young black athletes take control of their image, their earnings, and their trajectory, that control gets policed fast. It's framed as ego, as entitlement, as if confidence is only acceptable when it's quiet. Shedeur didn't stay quiet. He didn't wait to be approved. And that refusal is exactly why this moment matters. He's not just a quarterback. He's a symbol of the athlete as entrepreneur era, where talent isn't just measured in touchdowns, but in audience reach, brand alignment, and strategic decision-making. And while some legacy voices, like Chris Carter, have warned that turning down a contract like this could hurt his career, the deeper truth is that Shedeur has already proven he doesn't need the league's approval to succeed. The deal is done. The precedent is set. The NFL can choose to evolve or get left behind. Because here's what's really keeping execs up at night. If Shedeur can turn down a traditional contract and win, others will follow. And when rookies start asking about equity, creative control, and brand collaborations instead of just salaries and signing bonuses, the power dynamic shifts forever. This isn't a fluke. It's a foreshadowing. We're watching the slow collapse of the old athlete brand model, the one where companies hand athletes a script, a logo, and a paycheck. That model is being replaced with one that demands partnership, equity, shared vision, and authenticity. Brands no longer have automatic access to athlete platforms. That access has to be earned, negotiated, shared. And Shedeur's deal with Nike is the loudest example of that shift to date. He's not just signing endorsement checks. He's participating in strategy. He's helping shape campaigns, products, conversations. That level of involvement used to be reserved for megastars at the peak of their careers. Now, thanks to nil and digital leverage, it's happening before a pro debut. That's what makes this so important. Because this isn't just a Shedeur Sanders story. It's a warning shot, a cultural reset, one that forces leagues, brands, and executives to confront the fact that power has moved. And it's not going back. So whether you love it, hate it, or still don't know what to make of it, one thing is clear. Shedeur didn't just walk away from a $2 million deal. He walked into a new era, one where athletes don't just play the game. They change it. Let us know what you think. Is this the start of a movement or a one-on-one moment? Are athletes finally getting the control they've always deserved? Or is the old system still too powerful to disrupt? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're here for athletes taking ownership of their value, and make sure you're subscribed. Because if this is a new normal, we're only just getting started. So let's really break down why this move hit the NFL like a gut punch. Because the moment Shedeur Sanders walked away from a $2 million rookie contract and signed a $100 million deal with Nike, he didn't just secure generational wealth. He put the entire sports world on notice. Not just because of the size of the deal, but because of what it represents. This is a shift from athlete as employee to athlete as enterprise. And that changes everything. Let's be clear. The NFL didn't just lose a negotiation. It lost control. For decades, the league's model has been built around scarcity. You come in young, hungry, and grateful. You accept the contract they offer. Because what else are you going to do? You're told it's an honor just to be drafted, that the real money might come later, if you play well enough, stay healthy enough, and toe the company line. But Shedeur didn't wait for the league to validate him. He already validated himself. By leveraging his digital reach, cultural presence, and proven marketability, Shedeur didn't need the league's stamp of approval, and Nike didn't need it either. They didn't wait for a stat sheet from his rookie season. They looked at his brand, his audience, and his influence, and they knew this isn't about stats anymore. It's about status. Shedeur's value wasn't tied to draft placement. It was tied to impact. And that's exactly what's forcing a reckoning in the NFL right now. Because if one rookie can redefine his trajectory like this, what's to stop others? Think about it. How many athletes are already developing their platforms in college, building their audience, monetizing their likeness, and stepping into the pro world with more leverage than the teams trying to sign them? Shedeur just proved that if you play it right, you don't need to chase the bag. You are the bag. And this isn't some overnight fluke. His Gatorade deal with equity baked in was the test run. He didn't just cash a check. He made sure he had skin in the game. That means every bottle sold, every campaign he touched, potentially brought him more than a one-time fee. That's not how athletes have been taught to operate. That's how founders think. And now, Nike steps in, not just offering a logo to wear, but possibly a role in product development, campaign strategy, and revenue participation. That's ownership. That's long-term growth. That's the kind of move that doesn't just get you rich. It gets you respected. But here's where it gets even deeper. The backlash to this deal? Predictable. A lot of the public reaction framed Shedeur as arrogant, as someone who's skipping steps, who's too focused on money, who hasn't earned it yet. Let's call it what it is. It's the same coded language that's been thrown at every confident black athlete who stepped outside the mold. When Cam Newton celebrated a touchdown, they called it disrespectful. When LeBron left Cleveland and built an empire, they called him selfish. When Deion Sanders built an entire media presence around his authenticity, they called him loud. Now Shedeur asserts control over his career before the league even touches him, and he's called ungrateful. It's not about humility. It's about power. And people don't like it when young, black athletes wield that power early. Because for so long, the expectation has been that you work quietly, accept what you're given, and maybe speak up once you've been allowed into the inner circle. But Shedeur isn't waiting to be invited. He's building the circle himself. And the fact that he's doing this before being drafted, that's exactly the point. Because he's proving that the leverage doesn't have to come after your first contract. It can come from what you build outside the game, your influence, your alignment, your values, your brand. He's turned nil into ROI. And the NFL's discomfort is telling. This is a league that's used to having the final say. But right now, they're facing an uncomfortable reality. Talent doesn't need them the same way it used to. Shedeur's move has executives asking hard questions. If you can't attract top talent with exposure and endorsement access, because they already are both, what do you offer? And more importantly, how do you justify rookie deals that don't reflect what these athletes are already worth in the open market? It's not just about Shedeur getting paid. It's about the fact that this deal is a referendum on how outdated the league's compensation structure really is. Because $2 million might sound like a lot, until you realize Shedeur has already built an ecosystem that earns that much, and then some, without needing to absorb the physical toll of the league. The math doesn't lie. Neither does the message. This is bigger than football. This is a cultural reset. Brands no longer want athletes who just show up and smile. They want partners, co-creators, people with vision, influence, style, a point of view. That's what Shedeur brings. And that's why Nike didn't blink at the price tag. They know they're not just buying performance. They're investing in relevance. And the new generation of athletes sees that. They're paying attention. Because if one of their own can reject a traditional model and walk away with a 9-figure partnership, the floodgates are open. The message is clear. You don't have to wait your turn. You don't have to play small to be seen. You don't have to enter quietly and hope you're rewarded later. You can assert your value right now. If you build it, if you protect it, if you lead with intention. That's what Shedeur did. And whether the league likes it or not, they're going to have to adjust. Because the next class of athletes isn't just training for the field. They're negotiating deals, managing brand strategy, and building generational wealth before draft day. And the NFL? It can either evolve with them or risk becoming irrelevant to the athletes who no longer see the league as the only path forward. So let's talk about what this means going forward. College athletes will be negotiating from a new baseline. Agents will come in smarter. Brand deals will be structured with equity in mind from the start. And the power dynamic? It's shifting by the day. What Shedeur did wasn't about skipping steps. It was about changing the staircase entirely. And while his success on the field still matters, because make no mistake, he's still committed to the game, it no longer defines his entire trajectory. He's already proven he can win off the field. And in today's economy, that might just be the more valuable skill. So, now that the dust is settling, what do you think? Is this the future of sports economics? Is Shedeur leading a movement? Or just a rare outlier in a system still built to resist change? There's something almost poetic about the silence coming from NFL headquarters right now. You got Shedeur Sanders, the son of Deion Primetime Sanders, standing at the epicenter of the biggest cultural shift in modern sports. And the league that once held all the power? Stunned, quiet, scrambling behind the scenes while pretending everything is business as usual. But it's not business as usual anymore. A rookie, who hasn't even touched the professional field yet, just made a $100 million business move that forced an entire billion-dollar institution to sit down and rethink its model. He called her offer $2 million pocket change and proved it by securing a Nike deal that wasn't just about money. It was about ownership. Let's be real. This isn't a story about rejection. It's a story about strategy. For decades, the NFL has operated under a playbook older than most of its rookies. Sign cheap, control the narrative, monetize the athlete's image for them, not with them. And if they push back, call it a distraction. But Shedeur didn't just push back. He walked away and cashed in while doing it. This was an emotional decision. It wasn't about flash. It was calculated, deliberate, based on market value, brand control, and a vision far beyond touchdowns and contracts. This was Shedeur looking at the offer, looking at his brand, and realizing he'd already outgrown the system before he even stepped into it. And let's not gloss over the most important part. This wasn't just about getting a deal. It was about how the deal was structured. Equity. That word alone shifts the power dynamic. Most athletes, especially early in their careers, are happy to sign the dotted line and take whatever lump sum comes with the contract. But Shedeur, he looked at Gatorade and said, "I don't want just a check. I want a stake." That's not something athletes were encouraged to ask for. That's something startup founders do. That's how venture capitalists think. And that's how Shedeur's been operating. As an enterprise, not just a prospect. So when Nike came calling, they weren't pitching an endorsement. They were securing a partner. Because in this new media landscape, influence is currency. And Shedeur's got it. He's not just a football player. He's a movement, a brand, a media presence with cultural reach that leagues used to monopolize. Used to. And that's where the panic comes from. Because the NFL's long-standing leverage was built on a simple assumption. Talent needs exposure, and the league is the only place to get it. But now, exposure is decentralized. Viral moments on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube create more brand value than national broadcasts. A single viral moment can flip a rookie into a mogul, and the league doesn't own that anymore. Shedeur bypassed that dependency entirely. He's shown that athletes don't need to chase legacy. They can build their own, and they don't have to wait 10 years and 3 contracts to start doing it. That's the new reality. And for an industry that thrives on predictability and control, it's terrifying. Let's be honest, Shedeur's $100 million Nike deal is a direct challenge to the gatekeeping model. And it's got ripple effects way beyond football. Because this kind of move doesn't just stay in the sports pages. It bleeds into fashion, marketing, media, tech, every industry where talent is told to sit down, wait, and be grateful for scraps. Every space where creators are asked to hand over control in exchange for access. Shedeur's move tells them, you can say no. And when you do, You just might end up with something 10 times bigger. And the reaction? It's been split right down the middle. You've got supporters calling it visionary. The future of athlete empowerment. The blueprint for Gen Z players who grew up building personal brands online and now understand that their value isn't just in what they do, but in who they are and how many people are watching. Then you've got the critics. Shedeur is not ready. He hasn't proven anything yet. He's letting the money go to his head. Sound familiar? It should, because it's the same rhetoric that always shows up when young black men assert control. When they stop asking for permission, when they stop performing gratitude and start demanding equity. It happened with LeBron. It happened with Cam Newton. It happened with Dion. It's happening again. Let's not pretend the outrage is purely about football, because the facts are clear. Shedeur has built a bigger off-field brand than most players ever will. His digital influence is undeniable. His business decisions are surgical. And the market, the actual market, has responded with 100 million reasons that prove he made the right call. So the backlash? That's not about readiness. That's about discomfort, about a system that's being exposed, not by a veteran at the end of his career, but by a rookie at the beginning of his own story. And here's what makes it even more groundbreaking. Shedeur's just getting started. This isn't the end of the story. This is the first chapter. The NFL is still an option, a stage, but it's no longer the only one. And if or when Shedeur does step on that field, he'll be doing it with a level of power, control, and financial security most rookies only dream of. He'll enter with his future intact, not mortgaged, not dependent on the whims of a system, but built brick by brick through smart negotiation and unshakable confidence. And that's what really sets him apart. He didn't just reject a contract. He redefined what it means to be a rookie. In the past, rookies were treated like blank slates, raw talent that the league would mold, brand, and monetize. But Shedeur came in already formed, already branded, already monetized. There's nothing raw about someone who walks into the league with an 8-figure brand deal, equity clauses in multiple contracts, and the business acumen to say no to a deal that doesn't match his worth. That's not raw. That's refined. That's why this deal matters. That's why it's sending shockwaves, not just in the NFL, but across sports, entertainment, and culture. Because Shedeur didn't play it safe. He played it smart. And that's the kind of move that doesn't just shift a career. It shifts a generation. So what happens now? More athletes will follow this blueprint. More brands will look for strategic partnerships instead of surface-level endorsements. More young stars will walk into negotiations with a clear sense of what they bring to the table and what they're no longer willing to leave behind. Because the age of compliance is over. And the age of conscious capitalism in sports, that's where we are now. So let us know, are we witnessing a one-time anomaly, or is Shedeur Sanders the first of many? Is this the new standard for athlete empowerment, or will the system find a way to pull things back to normal? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button if you're here for generational power moves and industry-shaking decisions. And hit subscribe because the story, it's not over, it's evolving. Fast.